They don't have to talk about it.
Oh, that was stressful. I'm like, I can't read it.
So you're good, so I can,
Yes.
I can
So
read
now
my,
you can
my
have
little
it.
section.
You can, I might follow along with you though, just so I know what's happening.
You have a pen with me, show you how serious I was.
I think AJ was using that one. He's gonna ask me.
Don't be spotted sooner. I'm done. That was it for today. Give myself a star.
Okay, here's the thing that. Wave it around.
Alrighty.
Okay.
All right, I think we're gonna get started here in just a second, so I can ask everyone to settle in. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm AJ Tischletter, the president of Sun Valley Community Association. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome you to this year's annual general meeting of the Sun Valley Community Association. So today I'll be serving as the presiding officer to allow us as members to do the work of the annual meeting. I'd like to introduce our parliamentarian. This is John Berg. This is John's, I think, third year as our association's parliamentarian. The Roberts Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, shall govern this meeting in all parliamentary situations that are not provided for in the various laws and bylaws that govern the SVCA. A member will be entitled to speak up to 2 times on any debatable issue, and each time will endeavor to speak no longer than 3 minutes. Please confirm your membership identification by stating your name and address or division and lot number. The president will let speakers know when their 3 minutes are up. To speak a second time on the same debatable issue, a member must wait until those who wish to speak on it for the first time have done so. Speaking for longer than 3 minutes or for a third time will require permission from the assembly as a whole. These are the rules that your presiding officer will hold all speakers to during the meeting. Thank you in advance for your understanding and cooperation. If a member wishes to call for a parliamentary inquiry, point of order, appeal a ruling, or ask a question for information, please state the type of procedure being called for by approaching the microphone at the member podium over here. I want to thank our general manager, Joanne Jensen, and our staff for all they've done to make today successful. On behalf of the board, we're incredibly grateful for all our hardworking staff who have supported the efforts this year to build a foundation for stable and sustainable operations of our community. I would also like to recognize the fellow board members who are present at the meeting. Sonia Volz, our treasurer. Sam Shahan is our vice president. Linda Bradley is in attendance. Amy Vanderpool is in attendance. Stu Mitchell is in attendance. Nancy Alienax in attendance in the audience. I don't think I missed anybody. Gail Chiarella is our NNE chair here. Thank you to all the board directors for their service this year. Moving on to the certificate of a quorum, we had 50 people sign in, so we have a quorum for the meeting, and that's why we called it to order. So the next item on the agenda is the proof of notice of annual meeting. And I'll pass it to Sam, who's filling in for Brian, who is not able to be here today as our secretary.
So I'm Sam Shahan, Vice President, filling in for Brian Cope, Secretary. The notice of the annual meeting addressed to all members at the address on record at the Association Administration Office was placed in the mail at least 30 days before the meeting as required by the bylaws. The Secretary is in receipt of the Postal Service reports of the mailing. And this is the PS Form 3607R, which is mailing transaction receipt from the post office. And that's the end of my report.
All right, approval of the 2020 AGM minutes is the next item on the agenda. The minutes for the 2022 annual meeting were reviewed by the board and were made available on the website under the AGM button for this event, for the membership's review. Are there any corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. The association is having its balloting handled by a third-party election vendor, Unelec Election Services. They're responsible for the printing, mailing, registration, and counting of the ballots. Volunteer observers will be present during the counting process, and video of the counting process will be available on Sudden Valley's YouTube channel. During the counting process, ballots will be scanned with a high-speed scanner and results then given to the NNE committee for presentation at the end of the AGM today. Thank you to the community for your support in accepting this third-party process. All those voting by mail, drop-off, and in-person should have submitted their ballots unless you're voting from the floor at this meeting today by a special ballot, which you would have had to have gotten downstairs during registration before 12:30 today. If there are any floor ballots, they'll be collected by the NNE committee to be counted once we get to that point. All right, the next item on the agenda is the introduction of the board of directors candidates. We have 3 director positions open for 3-year terms this year. The list of names appearing on the ballot are Lori Robinson, Keith McLean, Joshua Bowens, Tom Red, and Mary McIntosh. All right, the next item on the agenda is the introduction of the NNE committee candidates. There was 1 candidate this year for the NNE committee, Rob Gibbs. In addition, the committee will be soliciting for interested candidates to serve on the 2024 committee. If you're interested in serving, please fill out a volunteer application on the association's website. The next item on the agenda is the introduction of the ACC committee candidates. There were 2 candidates for the Architectural Control Committee. Pat Zwolinski, sorry if I did not pronounce that right, and Joe Jean Koss. The committee will be soliciting interested candidates to serve on the 2024 committee as well, as there will be open positions because not enough people put their name in. All right, the next item on the agenda is new business. The new business to come before the assembly today consists of 1 measure and 2 advisory votes. You received the explanation of the budget measures and advisory votes in your election packets. According to our rules, discussion must be germane to the budget measure or the advisory vote, and the chair requests that after you identify yourself, you begin with stating stating your position, whether you're for or against the budget measure or in the advisory vote, stating your position of which option you are choosing. All right, so the budget measure number 1 is, shall the Sudden Valley Community Association's 2024 annual consolidated budget, which provides for assessment revenue of $5,164,719 and non-assessment revenue of $1,857,672, total combined assessment and non-assessment revenue of $7,022,391, be approved or rejected. Is there any discussion? If you would like to discuss, please come to the podium, and remember, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. This is discussion on the budget measure. All right, seeing none, we will continue to move on. The advisory votes then. The following advisory votes are on the ballot. Advisory vote number 1 is, which of the following options do you prefer for the replacement of Barn 6, also known as the Ice Barn? Members were asked to choose no more than one of the following. Remove the existing structure and replace it with an open-air pavilion. This option requires no special assessment for funding and was part of the presented budget from the board to the membership. Option number 2 was remove the existing structure and replace it with an enclosed structure. This option would require special assessment of approximately $11 per month for 6 years on all members. Option number 3 was remove the existing structure and do not replace. This option requires no special assessment for funding. Is there any discussion on advisory vote 1? Again, please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to advisory vote number 2. The replacement of the Marina wet slip docks is estimated to cost approximately $1.9 million. Which of the following options do you prefer for funding the Marina wet slip docks replacement when they have reached the end of their useful life? Members were asked to choose no more than one of the following. Beginning in 2024, increased annual wet slip use fees an additional $1,200 to provide about 1/3 of the funding required to replace the Marina wet slip docks. This option requires no special assessment and was the option that was presented in the 2024 capital budget by the board to the membership. Option number 2 is place a 6-year special assessment of approximately $9 per month on all members to fund the replacement of the Marina wet slip docks. Option number 3, do not replace the Marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. Is there any discussion on this advisory vote? All right, hearing none, then I will ask that if there are anybody voting from the floor here today, please vote your ballot now if you have not already done so. This concludes the presentation of the candidates and discussion of the budget measure and advisory votes. Voting is now concluded, and any committee member will come around and gather any ballots being voted from the floor at this time. Is there anyone voting from the floor? Could you please raise your hand? I am not seeing any floor votes. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to committee reports. The committee reports will be posted to the Sun Valley website for viewing after the AGM. Moving on to president reports. I would like to start by saying happy 50th birthday to Sun Valley Community Association. This community would not be possible with all the great people who choose to call it home. I also want to thank the board, staff, and volunteers for their continued efforts in making our community better. As work continues to be done to restore our community's infrastructure and ensure long-term upkeep of our association assets, I want to take a moment to share some of the exciting work that occurred this year within our organization. This year, we hired an engineering consultant to develop a new 10-year capital roads and drainage improvement plan. We completed a community-wide roadway culvert and ditch cleaning project, along with several minor culvert replacements and one major fish passage culvert replacement. Implemented numerous minor roadway improvements such as new street signage, main road centerline striping, minor asphalt patching, and pothole repairs. Taken numerous steps to rehabilitate our maintenance department's facilities in Area Z, including remodeling the maintenance shop and refurbishing the tall barn. We purchased equipment to support the operations of our organization, such as new snow removal equipment, new irrigation system, pump controller for the golf course, HVAC improvements to the Welcome Center, and provided funding for major operational programs such as Clean Green and Firewise. Budgeted for the Parks and Rec Department in the operational budget after the end of the 5-year rec special assessment without the need for use fees. In addition to all this great work that has been completed, we have the following major projects scheduled for construction either later this year or next year. Additional major roadway and drainage projects that are being identified in the new 10-year capital road improvement plan. exterior refurbishment of barn 8, this barn, the dance barn, and the replacement of the covered walkway bridge at the entrance back here behind all of us. The tennis courts are being resurfaced in the recreation corridor. The marina boat launch ramp dock is being replaced, and various playground ADA improvements have been underway. So much work has been completed over the last several years, and there's still so much work to be done. I'd like to thank everyone for participating in our community election, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays. The next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report, so I'll pass it to our treasurer, Sonia Volt.
Okay, thanks, AJ. So since AJ's gone into some detail about projects and our expenditures for this past year, and our GM also will go into a little more detail on our accounting. I'm just going to primarily review and summarize our budget and our budgeting process. So the SVCA's budget is prepared every year. This annual budget is approved by the board and voted on by the membership to be executed over the following calendar year. While maintaining the core concept of annual authorization, the annual budget is developed within a multi-year perspective through strategic and long-range planning, the preparation of a 10-year capital plan, and a 30-year reserve study. Revenue and expenditures, as well as constraints on assessment increases, are considered together to determine annual budget targets. The budget covers all SVCA departments and operations based on input and recommendations received from each department's manager. This process ensures the budget presented to the membership is a consolidated picture of operations and is voted on as a whole. Also, earlier this year, board directors provided input on what they would like to see over the next 1, 3, and 5 years, and that information was included in this process as well. Washington state laws and the SVCA bylaws clarify important aspects of the budgeting and planning process, primarily the powers and the authority of the SVCA board. Although SVCA bylaws provide for a finance committee, the lack of a finance committee does not stall the budget process. The finance committee's role is simply to provide recommendations to the board regarding departmental and operational budgets. It does not have any actual authority to impose revisions or changes. So in years such as this one, the inability to form a finance committee due to the lack of volunteers has no impact on the budget adoption process. This is because it is the board, and only the board, who is given authority to adopt the budget subject to membership approval by RCW 6490-525 and SVCA bylaw Article 3, Section C. Sun Valley's operating budget for 2024 balances $4,287,474 in revenues with $4,287,474 in expenditures. The proposed monthly dues for a developed lot in 2024 will be $146.06. The proposed monthly dues for an undeveloped lot in 2024 will be $138.71. There will be no additional user fees for 2024 for the parks, pools, or fitness center. The 2024 dues projection includes allocations of funds for many critical infrastructure improvements that had previously been deferred and were assumed to require a special assessment. So what's covered in the 2024 annual assessment? There are 4 components that go into your annual assessment. There's the operations fund, which is annual revenue and expenses for all amenities and HOA services. The capital repair, replacement, and reserve fund, it's the funds for major repair, replacement, and restoration of common area components and equipment. Our roads reserve fund, which is funding for major roads, bridges, and culvert work, and the mailboxes reserve funds, which is for anticipated expenses for the cluster mailboxes and parcel boxes. So how do we link budgeting and strategy? Successful long-term organizational sustainability requires planning and the incorporation of both strategic and long-term planning processes to identify vital and measurable goals. Sudden Valley's mission, vision, and strategic priorities act as the guiding principles for the association's decisions and actions taken by both the board and staff. The proposed 2024 operational budget accounts for expected additional payroll expense, as well as increases in property and casualty insurance, fuel, utilities, and the prioritization of the maintenance of infrastructure and facilities that have been neglected. The 5-year recreation special assessment, which included recreation, pools, and parks, expired in May 2023. Beginning in the budget year 2024, all parks-related expenditures will be accounted for within the maintenance department budget. This budgeting change was made at the request of the maintenance superintendent. After careful review of the 10-year capital plan, the proposed 3% monthly dues increase in 2024 will be allocated to the operations budget. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the manager's report. So I'll pass it over to our general manager, Joanne Jensen.
My presentation today shares highlights from each of our operating departments. First, in administration, we just implemented a new phone system after planning it for almost a year. This system will improve call quality and member communications by giving us flexible accounts that we can use for call-in information lines. We also were able to upgrade our internet connectivity to enable a move to cloud-based file storage in 2024. This will both improve the security of our records and also reduce costs longer term. We've developed 2 new administrative procedures for records requests and appeals. We've also onboarded 2 new administrative specialists and a chief of staff to build a strong administrative team. In accounting, for the budget, we limited the increase to 2024 monthly dues of 3% as compared to December 2023 monthly dues. The year-to-date collections rate as of September 2023 versus September of 2022, this year we're at 97.5% compared to last year, 97.2%. Reported expenses compared as a percentage of revenues, and in this instance, a lower ratio is better. As of August 2023 versus August 22, this year we're at 80% as compared to last year at 89%. So you can see that that's a much better ratio right there. That means we've only spent 80 cents on every dollar instead of 89 cents. We've again received a clean audit on the 2022 year-end financials. And when we look at projected August 2023 and September 2023 operational net income, August 2023 is projected to be $665,000. And in September, that is still projected to be $590,000. That's an operational surplus. Turning now to the architectural control work that we've done this year. We received 126 exterior alteration requests compared to 110 last year. 58 tree and vegetation requests compared to 47 last year. 24 requests for variances compared to 11 last year. 27 new construction starts compared to 22 last year. 26 permit extensions compared to 17 last year, and 25 fence requests compared to 19 last year. And this year, we've also logged 29 construction changes. So what this tells us is that the community is active and thriving, developing new properties and repairing the existing properties. Maintenance has been really busy. You can tell because there's a lot of writing on their slide. Under projects completed, all vehicles and equipment assigned to maintenance has been serviced and records updated. The board-approved maintenance shop remodel has been permitted and scheduled. Maintenance successfully implemented the 2022-2023 snow plan, and although snow is always challenging here in the Valley, we got many comments from residents letting us know that they appreciated the efforts that were made to clear the snow last year. 2 clean green events were held, as well as a Firewise program. Shoulder mowing occurred twice in all gates, reducing the amount of vegetation that would clog ditches. They're completing and still working on a street sign replacement project, and over 196 street signs have been replaced so far. Not to mention all of them were cleaned, so you can now read them. Pothole and other repairs, including shoulder work, stop bar painting, and gravel restoration. And most importantly, the maintenance team worked hard with our external vendor for pool management to make sure that the pools operated efficiently, use less water and less electricity, keeping costs in line. Maintenance also worked with external vendors on some outsourced projects. Street sweeping is completed now twice yearly. And this is different than when we used our own machine, because we have a machine to just blow the streets clean, but that of course puts all the leaf and debris into the ditches. So we've outsourced it, and we have a contractor who actually vacuums up all that stuff and dumps it so it doesn't go in the ditches. It's awesome. Gutter cleaning is completed quarterly, helping to ensure that the roofs on all of our buildings stay in good shape. The tall barn siding project has been completed, asphalt road resurfacing, a massive effort to clean out culverts and do drainage repairs. And the 10-year capital plan for roads and drainage has been completed and will be presented at the next board meeting. In terms of requests sent to maintenance that have been resolved since last October, so this is 1 year's worth, there were 97 relating to trees, 197 relating to road maintenance, 75 to parks, 102 for general maintenance, 198 for facilities, and 60 for drainage. So that is a very busy team. Our golf course is having a fantastic year. Golf continued its positive revenue and profitability trend with a 6th year in a row of record revenue and a 5th year in a row of profitability. Over those 6 years, the average year-over-year revenue growth is about 12%, and operational profitability is on track to be 35% greater than last year. So quite an excellent performance. The weather, of course, drives golf activity, and it was very cooperative this year. May through September was mild and dry, with very little in the way of either extreme heat or smoke from fires. This was our true first full year post-pandemic, and it showed our true potential as there were no COVID-based restrictions for all of the year. And what we've learned is that the retention rate has been very high for golfers who either took up the game for the first time or who returned to the sport during the pandemic. Lastly, golf outing and membership revenue continue their steady climb, with both categories showing strong growth over 2022. In turf care has worked hard to establish consistent routines with both year-round and seasonal staff in place. This year, they constructed 4 new gold tee boxes, improving playability for senior and beginner players. They received capital funding for and oversaw the installation of an upgraded irrigation pump panel, which allows for greater control and efficiency of our irrigation system. They managed the departure of the assistant turf care superintendent in the middle of the season by promoting from within, and that's always a victory when you can develop staff. The team found and repaired a long-term mainline leak on the first hole in the irrigation system. Consistently top-dressed greens resulting in smooth putting surfaces and fairways, resulting in continued improved drainage. That keeps the course playable during the parts of the year where we don't have sunny, dry weather. Turf Care also focuses on working closely with golf shop staff to ensure that maintenance and project work doesn't compete with the players and doesn't disrupt their play. Turf Care also continues to cultivate a culture of engagement, challenge, and constant improvement amongst staff. On the recreation side, a large focus on pools this year. We conducted in-house water safety and instruction courses for staff, including helping many of our lifeguard crew get their certifications for the year. We launched a new water aerobics program, which was extremely popular with many of our residents. For the first time in several years, we offered swim lessons at the Sudden Valley Pool in partnership with the Whatcom YMCA, contributing to improved water safety and a lot of fun for our younger members. We purchased new pool furniture, which was full for most of the time. And very importantly, revenue increased by more than 48% over 2022. And I always want to highlight this because residents, members of the association, are not charged to swim. So this is revenue that's coming in from the outside, take up some of the operational costs. Here in the community center, we see daily use of the facilities increasing every single day. More people signing up for fitness passes and using the facilities. And we're also welcoming new clubs and other activities into the center. The next two slides summarize the capital projects that have been completed. The first one is the SURF Fund, which is replacement and repairs. You heard some of these projects before. The interesting thing about this slide is you can see how much each of them cost. It is staggering. But the other thing that you can see is that the spend on capital repairs and replacement is allocated across the many areas of the association. We have 2 projects completed for maintenance, the main facility remodel, as well as the refurbishment of the tall barn where equipment is stored. We have money obligated to remodel this barn, to resurface and refence the tennis court here in the rec corridor. We made playground improvements here in the rec corridor, but also in Gate 5 that brought those 2 playgrounds up to ADA standard. We replaced that irrigation system pump controller at the golf course. The Austin Creek repair is obligated funding and will be completed in the spring, and that's also adjacent to the golf course. The Marina launch dock replacement, a long-awaited and very necessary amenity, will take place in the early spring so that it's in place well in advance of the new boating season. And we also completed the preliminary design and engineer's estimate for the replacement of the Marina wet slips. In roads, again, you've heard a lot of these projects, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. Culvert C 315 was replaced. We did the 2023 pothole and other road repairs project, as well as a pavement markings project and street asphalt repairs. The culvert cleaning that we've heard about multiple times, completion of the 10 years roads and drainage plan. We've spent about $40,000 in on-call engineering, street sign replacement, and the Cold Spring drainage repair. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, the next item on the agenda is property owner comments. So now's time for property owner comments. Each member will be allowed to speak once during property owner comments. Please try to keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. I'll let you know when those 3 minutes are up. Those of you who wish to speak, please approach the microphone at the podium here for recognition and form a line. If there's more than one person, please state your name and your street address or division and lot number. We will post a summary of the topics and concerns raised as an addendum to the minutes of this meeting. And a reminder that no business that was not in the notice of the annual meeting can be conducted. This is to protect the rights of the absentees who would have only been notified of the business provided on the notice. So if anyone has any member comments, please approach the podium and form a line, and I will keep you posted on time limits.
Is this working? Good. May I just first thank the board?
Just to be clear, sorry, don't want make sure you talk right into the microphone because they're a bit touchy. You gotta be close.
Yeah, so I'm Michael Preston and my wife and I live at 12 Marigold Drive, just to register where we are. I just want to first just thank the board and thank our new manager, Joanne, for fantastic work. I'm really appreciative of how efficient it is and how the new welcoming center really is welcoming. People there are very friendly. And thank you to Joanne for being so efficient and so clear. I just wanted to bring to your attention, I have done it as an article in the latest paper, about the invasive lilies. I've also sent an email to the board generally. I don't know if anybody read it. It's not mentioned anywhere in your plans, but all the people that we meet walking around Lake Louise, and it's a very important community exercise area where people can walk around the lake. Many people do. And I've also talked to some of the homeowners because as we go fairly frequently, we stop and chat to homeowners. Everybody is concerned about how the water lilies are getting more and more invasive each year. And I have talked to Joanne, and she mentioned that there's some plans afoot. But my reason for coming up is to put it in the public consciousness and to see if there's going to be some sort of, it's not mentioned there that it's a to-do item, but they need to be taken out. I heard from one resident that there's a lake up near Ferndale that got completely covered by these lilies, which will just grow and grow and grow. They're not the native ones. They're the, I'm trying to think of the name, something odorata. Anyway, they're the ones, the white lilies. So I know that other people have expressed concern, and it fills, I'm going to stop in a moment, but they fill up now, they fill the whole area as you come down the Lake Louise Causeway there, down the driveway, and they fill up the whole Waterbird Park that is specially designated for the waterbirds who can't even swim in their own area during summer. So I'm just hoping that all the efficiencies that you have, that you would take care of that and maybe promise us that it's going to rise up in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Alionak, or Sandalwood Circle. I'm here to correct misinformation about cornstarch. Cornstarch was the powder used in the Marina Park color run. The event organizer claims cornstarch is good for lawns because it contains 10% nitrogen. Cornstarch does not contain nitrogen, none. A different corn product, corn gluten, contains 10% nitrogen, and some garden websites confuse the two corn products. Corn gluten is what remains after starch is removed from the corn. Corn gluten is made into animal feed and fertilizer because of its nitrogen content. Cornstarch does not contain nitrogen, but it does contain phosphorus. Because cornstarch contains phosphorus, it is occasionally used for fertilizer. Phosphorus in fertilizer helps grass grow, and phosphorus helps algae grow when the fertilizer is washed or blown into Lake Whatcom. And that is why the county banned phosphorus fertilizer in the Lake Whatcom watershed. The county is especially concerned about fertilizer use on shoreline lawns, like the Marina Park lawn. So next summer, when you are visiting Marina Park and run into algae, remember the color run and those responsible for that event.
Thank you, Nancy. Next. So thank you, Nancy.
Welcome.
Next.
Hi, Andy Glover, 120 Harborview. I just wanted to echo my thanks to everybody. A lot of, when you were going over the list of what was done this year and what we spent our money on, we personally saw a lot of that, benefit a lot from that, and appreciate a lot from that. So thanks to the board, thanks to Joanne, and thanks to staff. Y'all are killing it, and I just really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other member comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Walkie. Been in Sudden Valley for about 6 years and have a boat in the marina for about that same period of time. And I'm concerned about the assessment, I think choice number 2, the idea of raising the dues $1,200 a year for the people who occupy the wet slips. I just think that's really unfair. We're paying $1,200 and what are we getting back for that $1,200? The opportunity to fund a reserve capital fund for the replacement of docks in 2029. Who in the world knows whether we're even going to be here in 2029? And so I feel the marina is a tremendous asset to the overall Sudden Valley community. We're the only marina on the lake, as far as I know. And it really enhances the image of Sudden Valley. And I don't see it being any different than the golf course, for example, in terms of stating who we are and what we do and what we can provide as a community, which of course has positive benefit in raising property values and other things. So if that choice of $1,200, which I don't agree with, of course, is implemented, then I think the people who are paying that ought to have something in return for that, other than funding a capital reserve fund that's not even going to be a benefit until 5 years from now at the minimum. I think that, one of the issues with being a boat owner is, okay, people want to have a boat and they want to have and enjoy the recreational opportunities on Lake Whatcom. Problem is with the current regulations that if you sell your boat, the opportunity to use that slip or reassign the slip to the new boat owner not exist. I think if we're going to be made to pay $1,200 to have our boat in that slip, that we should, the lessee should have some sort of an opportunity to carry that slip assignment forward to the next potential owner of your particular boat. The benefits are obvious. If you have a boat and a slip, it's fantastic. It really increases your value. And it really stimulates people's willingness, boat owners' willingness to pay that extra fee. But right now, we're paying into a reserve fund, supposedly, or if that's the option selected, and getting zero for it. So a lot of us won't even be around, by 2029. I don't mean physically and figuratively, but I mean, even reap any benefit whatsoever of that. So I just think it's extraordinary that that option's even listed. I don't see the funding for the marina shared equally by everyone at $9 a month be any different than sharing the expense of the golf course or any other amenities we have, or our community parks. Nobody's asking the parents of children who use community parks to pay an extra fee. So there you have it. That's my argument. Just want to put that as a matter of record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Wadsworth, 5 Western Lane. I worked with a number of people that are on the board and a number of people that are in this room and a number of people that are running for the current board positions. And I wanted to encourage the incoming board that I remember when we went through the dues change, bylaw change, and we wanted to change boards because we felt we weren't being listened to, and we felt that there wasn't the transparency and openness from the board that we wanted. And I still feel that we're not getting that. I feel that we get the information after the fact or are being ignored still. I'm hoping that there's a little bit more openness and working together. I was on the board for a few months this year and I saw a 5-4 dominance that kind of negated 4 of the people that you voted for because the other 5 ran everything. And I've also witnessed a lack of leadership from the board president and allowing the treasurer to run day-to-day events here and who's on the board and who gets to talk and who doesn't. And I just hope that that changes in 2024.
Rob Gibbs, 14 Far Summit Place. I just have a comment and so a couple, one of them being, I don't have, I'm not a wet slip tenant, I'm a dry slip tenant, so these comments are based on the fact that I don't have a wet slip. But I'm concerned when I've heard this current board and the future board will probably be talking about this in regards to providing lottery of the wet slips themselves. We do have a waiting list. Unfortunately, we have to wait. I'm on the waiting list. I've been waiting for a bit. That's just the way it works in pleasure boating. I have been pleasure boating for all of my life since I was 6 years old. Director Volt, respectfully, you said that there was several marinas in Puget Sound that have lotteries. Respectfully, please let me know who they are. I'd love to know because I just don't know that if any of those exist. Back when I was selling boats, we were often helping clients place those boats once they were sold to find a place to go. At one time, Blaine, you could get into Blaine. There was no waiting list, except for, I should say, some of the larger slips. Now, all of the Port of Bellingham marinas do have that. The other thing I would suggest is, and I'm saying this respectfully, you guys, really, I don't know any of the current board other than Sam that has been a pleasure boater that actually has had a wet slip down there. Maybe it would be good to put together a advisory committee of the tenants. You have the ultimate authority to make decisions. We know that, but maybe you might want to talk with us a little bit and get our feedback on some ideas. I think that's just good customer satisfaction because in essence, we're members, but we are your customers. So I was probably getting close to 3 minutes, but I think that if you're on a waiting list, you just need to just go ahead and be patient. It'll happen. And then I'm going to use my 3 minutes. Lastly, could we please publish that waiting list so that we can see where we're at and how we're moving? I think that might take away some of the anxiety or frustration if people can see where they're at. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rob. Can people please turn their phones on vibrate? And quite a few disruptions. Go ahead.
Elizabeth Huthert, 8 Westbrook Court. Our staff, association staff, is good, hardworking people, and they have been doing a wonderful job for us. Our board is doing a good job, mostly. But I think we need to also think about the people who are just volunteers, who trim plants that they don't have to, weed in flower beds just because they want it to look better, who pick up trash, who volunteer for clubs and organizations. They are not associated with the board, with staff. They're just volunteers, and I think we should give them a hand.
Any other member comments? All right, well, I'm going to make one. Andrew Tischletter, 2 Cedar Place. I got no problem with you calling my leadership into question and stuff like that. It's part of the position, I suppose. But what I do have a problem with is this assumption that somehow me and Sonia are controlling Joanne in some way. Joanne has shown here repeatedly over and over again that she's a professional. She does a very good job for us. And if she utilizes Sonia or myself or any board member for that matter as a resource to help her do her job, there is nothing inappropriate about that. She has a very large and tough job. I do not envy her in any way. So I would just like to put that on record and state, thank you, Joanne, for everything that you've done for us. Any other member comments? Only one, Nancy. It's the rules. Unless there's no objections to Nancy speaking a second time. That was part of the discussion on the measures, but. All right, well. Anybody else want to speak before we close member comments and get to the results? All right, not seeing any then. The chair of any committee, I believe, has given Joanne the results from the election here. So at this point, we will be ready. Okay. We will put the first thing will be, I think will be the board of directors.
Back.
What?
Go back.
You do the advisory votes. Do first one.
I think they're the same. You have to go in order? Okay. Trying to mix it up.
So for the board of directors positions, the vote count is as follows, once this thing's done searching.
Well, hey.
Now for next week's episode.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Hey, now we're
All right.
our seats.
So for the board of directors positions, the vote count is as follows. 563 in favor of Joshua Bowens, 548 in favor of Keith McLean, 525 for Lori Robinson, 515 for Tom Red, and 387 for Mary Stidham. The chair declares that Joshua Bowens, Keith McLean, and Lori Robinson are elected to the board of directors for 3 years. Congratulations. Rob Gibbs is the only candidate as discussed for the nominations and elections committee at 736 votes. And the ACC results, Patrick Zelinski with 588 votes and Joe Jean Koss with 607 votes. For measure number one, there were 749 votes in favor of measure one to approve the budget and 191 votes against to reject the budget. There being less than a majority of total owners rejecting the budget is approved. All right, for the first advisory vote related to the ice barn replacement, there were 604 votes for option number 1 to replace the existing structure with an open air pavilion. There were 208 votes for option 2 to replace the structure with an enclosed building, and there were 191 votes for option 3 to remove the structure and do not replace it. Advisory vote 2, you have, it was related to the Marina wet slip docks. There were 634 votes for option 1 to increase Marina user fees to cover about 1/3 of the project costs. There were 197 votes in for option 2 to replace the structure with an enclosed built, no, sorry. There were 197 votes for option 2 to have the membership cover the costs of the Marina wet slip dock replacement entirely. And there were 162 votes for option 3 to not replace the Marina wet slip docks at the end of their useful life. Last item on the agenda is announcements. I do have one quick announcement. We were planning to have the organizational meeting immediately after this. I did not get it coordinated to get the agenda posted with Joanne in time. It is now scheduled for Monday at 7. I apologize for any inconvenience on that one. And we're adjourned. Yeah. I'll send an email.